You're listening to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast with Mike Chappell and Dave Griffiths.
Inside the original Fox 59 CBS 4 podcast studio. It predates our very own producer Matt Adams, but Chap and I were here with Joe Hopkins way back in the day. Welcome to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast.
I put my name on a wall somewhere just for the heck of it.
Exactly.
I don't see it.
You carved it
Right.
in there, and then we've had multiple people take the office since.
At one point in Fox 59 CBS 4 history, this was my office.
Oh, really?
It was the digital office, yes.
That's right, it was.
So did you move up or just move?
I just moved out. More important people needed things.
Moving out. And then Amanda Rakes came and took it over. And oh my goodness. Such great history here. But we digress because there's football to talk about. The Indianapolis Colts had a busy week hosting the Arizona Cardinals for a couple of joint practices at Westfield and at Grand Park. And training camp is over, Chap. It's all done. The trip away from Colts headquarters is done. No more chances to see him. If you were a fan, you missed your opportunity. Hope you got out there because most days, except for the last day, it was pretty gorgeous out there.
It rained one other day, but if you want to count the joint practice with the Bengals next week as part of training camp, fine. But no, your point is that people who wanted to see him play, that's over. And what was it? 12 days up at camp and. I was a little surprised. A couple of us were that they stayed outside yesterday because when people said, "Did it rain?" Yeah, it rained from the minute it started to almost the minute it stopped. Till they stopped practice.
Between the two horns, it was raining.
And from our own Chris Whitlock's out there doing his hurricane report at 6:05, and it didn't sprinkle. It rained.
Yeah,
it rained. But they do it for a purpose. I don't know why. You get much better work done indoors, and they've got a really nice indoor facility, but. The important thing is they got practice over and everybody walked off. There was nobody that had to be carted off.
That is the best part, for sure. The Colts have their second preseason game on Saturday against these same Arizona Cardinals. If you're in central Indiana, that game will be broadcast on CBS 4. And kickoff is at 7, but be sure to join us at 6:30 for the Blue Zone pregame show. And we'll lead you right up to kickoff. Let's start with some news that's outside of Colts headquarters, but
really non-news.
Yes, exactly. It's more that nothing happened here, but something happened elsewhere, and that is second-team All-Pro safety Justin Simmons has signed a deal. He is off the board. He is signed by the Atlanta Falcons, of course, a team that. The AFC South, the NFC South is weird. A different team wins it every year. So teams take swings all the time.
They took a couple swings because they got Judon as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they did. Traded for Matt Judon, so he can't do another what's it called? He can't do another twist and get past Will Fries for the Colts trip there this year.
That was embarrassing.
It was. I was there. That was the worst.
Bad things
one of the
follow
worst
you.
NFL
Bad things follow you on the road.
It does. They do.
They do.
Yeah,
Yes.
but mostly. Well, I'll be in Jacksonville and New England again this year. In fact,
as I said,
and Houston. So let's hope for better trips for Dave. But anyway, the fact that Justin Simmons is now an Atlanta Falcon means that all the top safety options, and by top options, I mean options that were Pro Bowl caliber in either last year or previously in their career, are now off the board. So when Chris Ballard told us at the start of training camp, Chap, that he's not completely put off by the idea of signing a veteran safety, but he wanted to see how his guys competed first. Well, we've had 12 camp practices and a preseason game watching them compete. There's been nothing that says they're absolutely ready for the spotlight. Nobody has stepped up and been making plays and has shown out in the safety position. If anything, the Colts offense, they're at their best, I should say, when they're going deep. And to be fair, Anthony Richardson is a big part of that. He can throw it really, really well. But nevertheless, it seems the Colts have made the decision to stick with the guys that they've got, as Justin Simmons, really the last solid option at safety, veteran option, is no longer on the board.
I want to call it blind faith, but it's not blind faith because they see what's out there. They're simply trusting their evaluations of these players. And Chris Ballard was on radio during the week, and he said, we just have confidence in this group. We want to see how this group comes together, and I understand that. I do. But we're not just kind of making things up. The team doesn't know what they're doing at free safety. That's why they keep moving guys around with Nick Cross and maybe Julian Blackmon or whatever. I understand waiting, and we've talked about it. So I understand going through off-season work, veteran minicamp, and then saying, okay, what do we got? How do these guys look? And if they came out of that work saying, we're in pretty good shape, then okay. But all the way through training camp, it's been moving guys around, always with the idea that, Julian Blackman's best position is strong safety. It's like the fallback as well. Julian can go back to free safety, and we'll make do at strong safety. And I just, what drives me crazy, I understand, and this is Chris Ballard being Chris Ballard. He trusts his process. He trusts his gut. He trusts his staff on these young players, and often it works. Bernhard Raimann, that's worked. That's worked after a very, very rough start. The corners last year they put trust in, and I wasn't crazy about that. And it's the same group again this year. So what bothered me is it was an obvious issue. The team even really admitted it by how they handled it, and the solution was so simple. Simmons getting 1 year, $8 million.
Yep. That's
pretty steep at this time of the year. That's probably why he hadn't signed yet. But the other guys, Jamal Adams, he had been hurt. But there were guys out there to go after that got 1 year, $3 million. That's what I didn't understand is there were guys at a very reasonable price. 1 year, this wasn't a commitment of multi-years, and they chose not to. Will they, when the cuts happen after that third preseason game, will they find corners? Will they find safeties? Probably. But then the guy has zero experience in what you're doing. This isn't like getting a running back, which I wouldn't mind them doing as well when cuts come. You can plug a running back in, not to devalue the position, but I think it's an easier plug and play. Corner and safety's not. And again, if you're okay with Nick Cross and Blackmon, and then Rodney Thomas or Denbo or somebody or Rodney Harrison being your group back there, okay, you're one injury away from really being in a bad position. And at corner, we're also high on Juju Brents. All the people that complain about or worry about Anthony Richardson being injury prone and all that, Juju Brents has a lot more issues than Richardson does. So I don't understand when you've got a team that everyone believes can compete for the division and maybe more, leaving yourself vulnerable at the back end of the defense, of what could be a very good defense. The front seven is going to be really good. Mm-hmm. But that's compromised if you can't cover. And right now you have questions.
And I think the frustrating part for Colts fans, Matt, would be the fact that the other teams, the Titans and the Texans, both went out this offseason and really made some splash moves in free agency. And although we've talked about how the Colts tried to go out and get Danielle Hunter, it just didn't pan out. So obviously their try was not as hard, not as much as the Texans try or the Titans try. So they went out and
it was more selective
moves.
Too.
It was, for sure.
On free agency. Right now they signed 2 veteran free agents, Joe Flacco and Raekown Davis,
who we haven't seen.
He's got high blood pressure. I'm not making light of that, but I can't remember the last time that a player missed the entire training camp with high blood pressure, and the team hasn't really offered much. He's making progress. I don't know what that means.
Shane just shrugs his shoulders every time we talk about it. It's like, I got nothing for you guys. So it's like he doesn't look ticked off about it. He doesn't look he just looks confused about it. Like what's going on here? He doesn't know much more than we do, it seems like. So
and getting off course here, but Raekown Davis should be a big part of this defense. Who's going to be Grover Stewart's guy to come in and give him some rest? We saw what happened last year when Grover wasn't in there.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They couldn't stop the run. It was 150 yards, 160 yards a game. So that's as great as very good as this defensive front can be. who is the backup for Grover? I don't think we know yet.
It showed the value of Grover Stewart when he had to miss those games, and you tried to slide in Taven Bryan to that spot, but really he's more backup to DeForest in that position in the 3 technique, not so much the nose. So he's playing a little out of position. I mean, if football was easy, any one of us would do it. So you ask your guys to do hard things that's in their job description, and he just didn't live up to what Grover could do, and the Colts were gashed. They were proven to be deficient when one player was knocked out of the rotation. So yeah, it's a very important position for depth, for assurance, for just to make you feel a little bit better that, hey, if something happens to Grover again, you're not going to be totally scraping the bottom of the barrel, for crying out loud.
Yeah, love the pass rushers, love the guys on the edges, but if you can't stop the run and it's 3rd and 2,
then why pass?
Then why pass?
Keep running.
So we'll see where it goes, and that's a concern. But boy, we keep coming back to the secondary, and it baffles me why. Sometimes in the past people say, well, you bring in a veteran guy and it cuts down reps for the young guys. Well, okay, fine.
Well, maybe they don't deserve the reps.
Right. Rodney Thomas was a starter until he played himself out of the lineup.
Didn't deserve it anymore.
Nick Cross has started, I believe, 4 games.
Yep.
Maybe
his first 2 games and his last 2 games.
In the last 2 games. So, yeah, they've given guys time, and I think Nick Cross has started playing better. But the urgency, it just is incredible. And to think, well, we're going to find somebody on the waiver wire or a veteran who's cut at the end of the month is just kind of crazy.
Right. So let's go into these 2 training camp practices against the Cardinals a little bit. Now that we've sufficiently gone off course, we'll steer right back in here. The first day of practice against the Cardinals, a little bit offense, defense on both fields, so you have to try to focus on one or the other. But overall impressions, I thought that the offense performed fairly well, and the defense kind of struggled at times when the pass rush didn't get home. And that's kind of what we've been hinting at over the past couple minutes, though, when we've been talking about free agency, that we like the pass rush the Colts have, but there are questions in the secondary. So if the pass rush doesn't get home, then you can be in a little bit of trouble at that point. So and what we see on the field is kind of confirming what we're talking about back here in the studio, that the pass rush needs to do its job, or else the young secondary is going to be proven that it's young and inexperienced.
But you can neutralize a pass rush.
You can.
Shorter passing game, quicker drops, and then that puts more on the secondary to cover.
And then it's also more difficult coverage, because you probably have to be up. You have to play press coverage at that point if they're doing the short passing game, and that's just harder. Like if you can play 10 yards off and they're doing 7-step drops, it's a little bit easier. But if you have to play press coverage all the time and they're getting the ball out on the back foot on the 3rd step of the drop, then it's a little bit more difficult. But again, like I said, football players are asked to do difficult things. It's in the job description. But Kyler Murray is not the best quarterback in the NFL, but he certainly had some very good moments against the Colts defense. And when the Colts pass rush couldn't get him because he was running around like the gingerbread man, as the old Colts defensive line coach used to say. I forget his name. He was a great dude, but I forget his name. It's not coming to me. Anyway, it was a little bit difficult at times. But anyway, let's talk about the good things. Let's talk about the
offense had moments.
Which was good. It really had good moments, and you saw them being able to make plays downfield. And that's been an emphasis from this past offseason. And Anthony Richardson is undeniably the center of them being able to do this, but being able to attack downfield, use guys like Alec Pierce, who it is their major strength.
Had a good camp.
And has had a good camp. It's not just him. It's a little bit of Pittman, too. It's a little bit of Mitchell, too. But to be able to attack downfield and use these skills that your receivers have to their best of their abilities. And we've been able to see them do that now, not just against their own Colts secondary, but against another secondary as well.
Yeah. Yesterday, again, they had the 11-on-11s, the first series, when it was just raining. I mean, raining sideways. And Richardson dropped the first 2 shotgun snaps, just botched them. And then he overthrew Pierce, I think, in the end zone. Then he put a glove on.
Yeah, the glove.
Then he turned Michael Jackson with the glove. And they closed the practice with another, like they did the previous day, with a touchdown, 2-minute drive. And it just shows you what they can do pushing the ball down the field. Jonathan Taylor running the ball well, and the touchdown yesterday, I believe, was a semi-scramble with Richardson kind of walking in for 7 or 8 yards.
Right.
And the previous day, it's a 75-yard drive, and he completes it with a beautiful pass to Michael Pittman. So that's what you see. And what we've noticed, I think, more than anything, is that Richardson is still inconsistent, even one-on-ones, but more 7-on-7, where there's no pass rush, and you can kind of hold the ball longer to let things develop, and then maybe he'll overthrow, normally high. But boy, you get into 11-on-11 with up-tempo, 2-minute. It's just different. Mm-hmm. He's decisive, and he even admitted that, in real football, he thinks he's better. Steichen said the same thing, and that's why we won't see it in preseason. The starters aren't going to play Saturday. They'll play a half in Cincy, what's what they did last year.
Right.
Ballard said maybe a little more than a half, but I remember back in the day what the Colts used to do, that in the third preseason game when they had 4, they'd play the first half, and then they'd come out and play the first drive of the third quarter. So you get into the rhythm of doing something at halftime and then coming out and playing again. But even whatever they play against the Bengals, we're not gonna see zone reads. We're not gonna see the stuff that Richardson does. We see it in practice. He had one of those on Wednesday night where he took that zone read and he went 20 yards. And sometimes It's hard to tell in training camp what's a good run because you don't hit guys.
It's very often.
Right. Is what they call you thud them up. But on that play, he didn't get thudded up.
Right.
And also in the run game on those situations, you're not giving yourself the ability to break a tackle. Jonathan Taylor breaks tackles.
Yeah.
And this guy is too. But it was very, very encouraging how Richardson plays when it's real football, and there's quicker decisions, and he's very quick to make a decision, maybe get off a play that was supposed to be there and go somewhere else because that guy's open over there. So again, I'm very encouraged. I spent all the 2 practices watching the offense. It's just hard to watch both.
Right, it really is.
And whatever this team does, it's going to be offense. The defense just can't be awful. I've got low standards for it right now because I just don't trust the secondary, but I'm really encouraged by what the offense can do. And this is with Josh Downs having that high sprain. I think he's going to miss a game or 2. I really do. And how they adjust, I'm sure it's on your outline here, but I'll jump around.
As we do.
But how do they adjust without Downs? And we've seen some of that with Gold. We're going to see Kylan Granson in there, and they've moved Mitchell inside some. So it's going to force them a little bit to be more creative. Whenever you lose playmakers, and they don't have a lot. Mm-hmm. They got Richardson, they've got Taylor, and to me Downs. I don't consider Pitt a playmaker in that sense. Downs is a guy that can catch that slant and go 50 yards, and they will miss him.
Yeah. Until he comes back, that short to intermediate passing game is going to take a little bit of a hit.
Yeah.
And like we've said before, I just said before that the deep passing game has been on display, and they've done really well, but it's been kind of at the expense, Matt, of that short to intermediate passing game. So if you're asking for Kylan Granson to step up, if you're asking for Anthony Gould to step up, like we've seen those guys catch some balls, but not in the same ability that Josh Downs has had.
Well, and that's where your tight ends and your slot receivers come into play. And like we've said here, Downs is the best slot guy they've got by far. So, we'll probably see some stuff from Gold. We'll see some stuff from Mitchell as well. But will anybody emerge from this tight end group? And I just don't know, man.
One name I have not mentioned at all throughout camp is
tight end
Jelani
There we
Woods.
go. Mm-hmm. There we go.
And you look at the roster, the depth chart that they put out, and he's like 4th string down there. And I've never seen him with the ones. I can't remember seeing him out there once with the ones.
No.
It's not like they're rotating these
Primarily
guys
it's been Mo and Granson.
Exactly.
And we were talking, going into camp, it was like, man, this is a pretty good tight end group. They've got like 7, but they got they got 5 guys you might want to carry.
They all contributed last year at some point.
Right, and you're thinking, well, except for Jelani.
Well, yes, good point. Excuse me.
But underwhelmed, is that the right word? I mean, Will Mallory misses some time with a hamstring, and whenever we talk about him, it's like I'm dissing him, and it's not. Mo is Mo. This is what Mo Ali Cox is. And just the way they've done things, it seems like every year they've tried to replace him, and they can't do it.
Colts fans try to beat him.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's an annual tradition. How are we going to get Mo off the team this year?
You can save $6 million in cap space, and there's Mo. He's just like, okay, yes, he's an extra blocker. He's a good blocker. He'll give you 20 catches and a couple touchdowns. But I really thought this group was better, deeper, and it's just not. Grandson, they all do something, which is fine. But if that's what you have going into the season, well, Mo's in there, they're going to run the ball.
Exactly.
Granson's in there, they're going to throw the ball.
That's what you run into with those personnel
Same with
groupings.
Mallory, and it just sort of tips your hand what you're probably going to do. And they've not hidden the fact that they really want whatever you want to say, Jelani Woods to emerge this year. What's really going to be interesting, I know James Boyd, our friend from Athletic, did his roster cut down that we hate to do, but you have to do, and he's got Jelani Woods not making the cut. We're going to see how the Ballard and his staff have tolerance for their own in terms of this is a third-round pick, if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't Jelani third round? And he's not had a good camp. But do you give him the nod over who? Ogletree, I guess. Don't you keep either one
or the other?
One or the other. Because Mallory was a second-day pick. Was he a 3 or a 4?
Fifth. Ooh,
was he a 5?
I thought he was.
Okay, so
the
third.
A
third day.
But I thought he was 5 or 6.
But I thought he showed things last year. So we're going to see their tolerance or their patience on Jelani Woods on whether if you put him on the practice squad, somebody will get him. If you waive him,
if you cut him,
he'll be gone. So do you really?
He's too intriguing to.
But that's what he is here.
Through. Yeah, exactly.
He was a 5th
round pick.
Okay. But third round pick's different. It's just different on your tolerance level. But if you take all the numbers and draft picks off, and you look at the way they've played, he's not been one of the top 4 guys.
Nope, definitely
So I'm curious how they handle this.
And we've seen Chris Ballard cut bait on some of his picks in the past. We saw Zach Banner was a 4th round pick, and he was a Ballard pick, right? I don't think he was far back enough to be a Grigson
I don't
pick.
think so.
I don't think so either. And that was in his very first camp.
A pass rusher, Terrell Basham.
Was
he a 4, 5?
He wasn't. I don't think he was a 5. I think he was a little bit higher than that. But yeah, you're right. He was.
But they cut him the second year, I believe it was.
So he wasn't living up to expectations. So
it's but again, as much as the team say they keep players who earn it. When you're a 3rd round pick, you get a little more rope to what you can do. But that position has been underwhelming.
Maybe they try to sneak Jelani Woods onto the practice squad. The only way to do that is to keep him originally, and then to cut him or waive him when you're picking up somebody else from.
But when you're on the practice squad, you're a free agent.
You are, yes.
So if somebody wants him in week 2, they go and get him.
Basham was a 3rd round.
Oh, okay.
I thought
he was higher than.
And I thought he got cut 4th or 5th week, his second season. Jeez. I don't know, but generally players get more rope the higher the better your draft pick. But I just had hoped. I think we all expected more from the group. And you look up there in the first group, it's Mo, Mo and Granson.
Every dang time, it's Mo going out there.
And you go with who you trust, and those are the guys that right now they trust.
Yep, fair point. Marvin Harrison Jr. He looks pretty good, Chap. I know you were focused on the Colts offense, but I'm sure in your first impressions of him in an NFL getup, you were just impressed as I was, I'm sure.
Yeah, again, I was watching the offense. You talked to the guys that were watching defense, and they just said, it's obvious. Again, sometimes you can take his number 18 off and not know who he is, and you say, yeah, that guy's pretty good, and it just jumps at you. So I think he was on the field for like 3 snaps in their first preseason game. I don't think he plays this week. Kyler Murray's not playing,
right?
So why would you play?
There's no sense.
Marv Jr., there's no reason. You know what he can do. It was really interesting. We talked to him before Wednesday's practice, and boy, he's got his dad's mannerisms. He just does. He's got that little laugh. He's quiet. He's very polite, but he's quiet. But boy, the credentials are off the charts. he was a fourth overall pick, and it was the highest. There's only like 2 guys taken higher in the last quarter of a century. Julio Jones was a 2, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody was a 3. AJ Green, I can't remember who it was. But there's not many receivers taken 4.
Right.
So I think the Cardinals took Larry Fitzgerald, maybe 2, back in the day.
There, yeah.
Back in the day. But this guy looks like the real deal. What was really cool, again, we'll steer off course here, but with Marv Jr. here, Marv Sr. was here.
Yes.
And Edge was here.
Yeah.
And this is,
the whole gang back together, some of the gang back together. Reggie, of course, is here.
Reggie was, and they spent time, Edgerrin walks out and is talking to Reggie during stretching and all this and having great times. And I talked to Edge for a few minutes about Marv Jr., and he said what was really interesting is we all remember whenever Marvin was here and they did something that he always had Marv Jr. with him.
Right.
Probably a half a dozen times Marv Jr. had been here. AFC Championship game, the Super Bowl, and a couple other games, and Ring of Honors and all that stuff. And there's a great picture after the AFC Championship game of Marvin carrying Marvin Jr., and it's just a cool picture. But Edgerrin said that he's convinced how Marv Jr. learned how to be this from being around that. He saw how the one thing I take away from that great that decade of the 2000s is how the locker room got it. It was full of players, of excellent players, who still were your hardest workers. They knew how you approached the game, and then, like Edgerrin said, when you practice hard, games are easy, and that's how you know you got good players. And Marvin Jr. sort of carries himself that way, but it's really kind of cool to see because. And then you're talking about full circle. Here's Marvin Jr., Marvin Sr., and Edgerrin, and then Edgerin's son, Jizzle, is going to be a sophomore at Cincinnati, and Edgerrin said he'll go first round next year.
Jizzle James.
6'1", 6 foot. He'll average 15, 16 points a game, and Edge says he's going to be first round pick next year.
Hey, let's go.
Good for him. But it's cool to see these former Colts come here and their kids are playing and playing well. So it's just kind of good to see these guys come back. It's always important to have these players come back. I don't know if that's always been the case here, that they welcome players. I think there was a time that it wasn't. But how do you not encourage Edgerrin and Marvin and other guys, Ryan Deem, all these guys to come back and just be around because they showed how to be great and to be great for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm. We'll make one note before moving on from Cardinals camp. That is that Nick Cross was kind of anchoring that free safety position on the final day on Thursday. So there didn't seem to be too much of a platoon at that point. I don't know if they're moving that direction to just say, you know what, at this point you got to make a pick, leave someone in there.
And maybe we'll see something on Saturday when the starters don't play.
Right.
Okay, who are your safeties?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you want to see more from Nick, or is he your starter?
It's a good question.
Julian Blackmon's not going to play.
No.
Rodney Thomas, I'd wear his butt out.
Exactly.
He's got to get reps.
60 snaps for Rodney Thomas.
But if Nick Cross doesn't play, I think you're right. I think it's doggone it. You've got to, if you're going with these guys, then be all in with them. He's our free safety. We're going to leave Julian at strong safety and sink or swim with it. And then if he's out there for a couple games and Nico Collins runs past Juju because he has no deep help, then you say, okay, it's not going to work. Then you put Julian at strong safety or at free safety, and then Ronnie Harrison at strong safety, and then C. But I think you're right. Doggone it. Put him there, leave him there. And you've already made it clear you're going to sink or swim with these guys.
Yep. I mean, early last camp, they made the decision that Anthony Richardson was going to be the starter over Gardner Minshew, and they rolled with it. It
was the first week of August.
Exactly. They said, okay, this is what it's going to be. Let's go. And that's a slightly different scenario. I mean, it's a quarterback, number one. He's a rookie, number two. But it's kind of, I think it has similar tones. Like
you're doing a disservice to the players by shuffling them around.
Exactly. Very much so. And you're doing a disservice to the defense as a whole.
Don't you think if I'm DeForest Buckner or Zaire or fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Get this right, and if this is our guy, and the locker room knows.
They do.
So, but I think that's the best point you make. If Nick Cross is your guy, put him out there, give him what's going to be like 2.5 weeks to get himself ready and see what you got.
Colts are not perfectly healthy coming out of training camp. There have been a couple knocks over there. Josh Downs, we mentioned earlier, with his ankle injury, will probably miss a week or two of the regular season, we would imagine. Ashton Doolin's been dealing with a bit of a hamstring injury. Even when he was healthy, hasn't been running with the ones too much.
Boy, he's in the receiver group.
Yep.
He needs to be out there playing.
He does.
He's not locked in the room.
No, he's not. And there are some other guys that they've been playing in the gunner positions, which was in the old
Pierce
days.
was out there.
Yeah, right?
Running on a gunner one play.
Yeah. Trey Sermon's been dealing with a hamstring injury at running back, which is why you, Chap, probably earlier said you wouldn't be opposed to the Colts going and signing a veteran running back.
I wanted that before.
Right, and now.
I mean, we got sort of spoiled by Zach Moss last year. You know, they're gonna run JT this year. I mean, 20 carries a game. I don't think that's unheard
It's
of.
not ridiculous, no.
And then it's funny because then you start looking at it, get 18 to 20 carries from JT, and then you're going to get 10 from Richardson. He had 10 carries his 2 games last year that he started and finished. That's 30. Mm-hmm. He only played 60 in a game. So the passing game, what's it going to get? Does Michael Pittman get his 105 catches? Josh Downs get his 70? Start doing the math, and the plays go away quickly. This team is going to want to run the ball. But, yeah, Trey Sermon kind of concerns me. Hamstrings can just linger.
Yeah, and the guys that you have right now on the roster behind Jonathan Taylor, it's Evan Hall.
Who's looked good, but
yeah, but he's not the same like bruiser back that can carry between the tackles all the time. Like he's the guy that's kind of the change of pace. Dare I say what was the word that Nyheim Hines hated? Gosh, what was it? I know, and then all of a sudden it's gone out of my mind.
It'll come back to me in 7 minutes.
Or when we're done and Matt's
the versatility
editing.
part,
yeah, exactly.
Gadget guy,
Mr. Gadget, yes.
Yeah. But he can catch it out of the backfield, and he's done that a couple times well. Tyler Goodson kind of in the same vein there, maybe a little bit bigger than Hall, but he doesn't have the same size.
The drop-off is too big right now between Taylor, and it's going to be anyway, but between Taylor and the backup, it just is.
And the other guys, they have Demetric Felton on the roster, I think, and then Xavier Scott. I mean, it's not... It's not anything that has any type of NFL experience back there. So
and we'll see him Saturday.
Exactly. We will.
We'll see him Saturday.
We'll get a good look at all of them.
Exactly. Behind the backup offensive line. Titus Leo has been hurt as well. He was hurt all last year, a 6th-round pick, I believe, last year out of Wagner on the defensive line. Cam McGrone, the Lawrence Central product at linebacker, and Liam Armstrong didn't practice either. Over the past day or so out at training camp. So a couple linebackers there that have been nicked up, and we'll see exactly which linebackers play. Excuse me. Jalen Carlisle got back on the field. He had been dealing with a hamstring injury, the rookie. So if he is healthy and those guys still are dinged up a little bit, you can expect to see the rookie quite a bit. And that could be interesting to see, to give him basically a whole game, for crying out loud, because you're running low on linebackers if you have a couple of those guys that are hurt. You'll see a lot of what's his name, the special teams guy, Stewart. Yeah, Stewart.
Yeah,
Grant Stewart.
There was a game preseason game last year. He must have played 80 plays.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So he's out there for all the defensive plays, and then he goes out again for special teams.
Yep.
And he's fine. Yeah, he's
that's what he does.
He's Mighty Mouse out there. Just
that's a thin position as far as experience, but you're gonna only really play your 2 linebackers most of the time because you're in sub packages.
Yeah. So, you'll play Segun Olubi every once in a while, and you'll play Cam McGrone if he's healthy, I think, maybe once in a while. But, yeah, that's an EJ Speed, Zaire Franklin joint right there. Raekown Davis has still not practiced at the all training camp, like we said. He still is dealing with high blood pressure and has not – I mean, at this point, like you're worried that he's in any type of football shape. And I would say that for a big defensive tackle or for a speedy wide receiver. I'd say that for anybody. So I'm not just trying to say, here's a big, chunky guy. He's not going to be in football shape. I'm saying there's a guy who has high blood pressure, who has not been on a football field for all of training camp, so he's not going to be in football shape.
Well, it makes you wonder with the high blood pressure, how much heavy exertion can you do
exactly
on the side with the trainers? I mean, sometimes and it's going to be different with Josh Downs. When it's an ankle injury, how much rehab can you do to where you can keep your cardio up? And when it's an ankle, you don't put a lot of heavy work on it now. But that's what it's a mystery. They paid good. Was it $8 million this year? Maybe that was the guarantee. You got a pretty good contract, and right now we've not seen him.
Yep. Other players who they have signed, the Colts have signed. They signed defensive end Derek Rivers, who spent a little bit of time on the Colts practice squad last year and the Texans practice squad. Also signed wide receiver Greg Ward, who played under Shane Steichen with the Eagles a couple years ago, a name I definitely remember from his time in Philadelphia. They also waived safety Kendall Brooks and waived the injured wide receiver Ethan Fernea, who is the backup slot receiver as well, and has been on the Colts practice squad, it seems like, for the past 7 years. Because that's just a name you recognize.
I think he cleared waivers and he's back on IR with the Colts.
I'm wouldn't be surprised by that. Final cut day is August 27th. The final preseason game is the 22nd, I believe. It's Thursday the 22nd. Thursday. And then the final cut day will be the next Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And what my fingers there, counting
and what
out.
People need to keep in mind is there was a tweak to the preseason, the cut thing, to where you can designate 2 players on IR who can come back during the season.
Right, because used to, once they were on IR,
Wesley French,
you were done.
He was done for the season. The thing that I didn't realize, but they can't designate Wesley French to return. You have to do it on cut day and say, okay, these 2 guys, because during the season you can have 8 guys come back from IR. Well, 2 of them could be, when you're cutting your roster from 90 to 53, you designate these 2 guys. You may put 6 guys on IR, but you can designate these 2 guys to come back. What in the past, what you've had to do is, if you think a guy can come back in November, December, you carry him on your 53, and then the next day you put him on IR. Well, that restricts your 53.
Right.
Is that what they're doing with Ebukam? I don't know. It's hard for me to believe that in whatever it be 5 months, you can recover from an Achilles.
Achilles. Right. I just don't think from an Achilles injury.
But maybe what you do is you do it because there would be no downside to it. You put him on IR, and of course it counts as one of your eight guys to return. But if you think a guy can come back in, again, 5 months for the December of the playoffs, maybe you do. Right now, there's no really reason to put Ebukam on IR because you got 90 players. You don't need the spot. It's just one of those things you think, what are they doing? What are they doing by doing nothing?
What's going on?
Maybe that's it. I don't know.
And of course, this year too, as they've done the past year or so, they don't have the cut waves. You used to have a cut down, you got to get down to 75, and then you got to get down to 90.
Yeah, right.
Now it's just all the one cut to get it to 53.
Right.
Yep. Fair. The Colts' unofficial depth chart against the Cardinals is very much the same as.
Do you look at that? Do you pay
attention
to that?
Not really.
No. I compared it side by side with the Broncos just out of curiosity.
Do they still have Orr?
Yes. Yeah. They're all over the place. It's Alec Pierce or A.D. Mitchell. Yep. It's Danny Pinter or Tanner Bortolini.
Yep. The only changes are for injuries, like Wesley French off the depth chart because he's not able to play, although Samson Ebukam still on the depth chart.
He could be back.
Raekown Davis on the depth chart, even though we've not seen him play.
Right.
And then one of the running backs got switched out because obviously they put Trent Penix, I think, got injured, so they signed somebody else to replace him.
Yes.
That was it. Dimitri
Felton. Yeah. So as we're going into the second preseason game, Chap, who are you looking forward to seeing? Because Shane Steichen already said the starters are not going to play. He said that Joe Flacco is not going to play either. No need to play Joe, honestly, in this preseason game. Let's get Ellinger out there. We'll get Jason Bean out there. And the Slovis as well. Keaton Slovis, I believe, is his name. And maybe I'll know his name by the end for sure. But I think I got it correct. But who are you looking forward to see? Offense, defense? Because obviously without the starters, it's a bunch of guys who are trying to earn a spot on this roster.
Well, and when you're trying to look at the receivers, although again you're going to see the 5th, 6th, 7th, 10th receivers playing, and are you looking for one guy to emerge to be the last guy? Tight ends, I'd like to see, somebody. Delani's got to play. Drew's got to play. I wouldn't put Mo out there. I wouldn't put Granson out there. Mallory, he needs to play, I think.
Yep.
But then you've got 3rd and 4th and 5th string quarterbacks throwing to him. Primarily, I would like to see the offensive line. I remember Howard Mudd always used to tell us that people say, well, the second offensive line looks like crap. That's not what the coaches are looking for. They're looking for, okay, who's our tackle? Who's our swing tackle? Blake Freeland has not had a great camp, which gives you pause. Danny Pinner's been working backup center. So I think what they're looking for is which guy can be this, who can be our swing tackle, who's going to be the primary backup inside. Is that going to be Danny Pinner? I mean, he struggled at guard, what was it, 2 years ago? Because he misses last year. And love the starting offensive line, but boy, you've got to have 4 guys that you really trust, and they need to have that backup tackle emerge. I mean, Braden Smith has played since he's come back from the surgery, has been the guy at right tackle that you want, but he missed time last year. So it's a handful of backup guys. I don't think they put Latu out there on defense. I wouldn't. I just don't know. Again, you want to try to find who's going to be that Grover's backup. It's just so hard when you get to this point, what you're seeing, because they're all playing. And again, it'll depend a little bit on how the Cardinals play. Are they going to hold their guys out? I would think that the coaches have met and Steichen told us we're not starting our starters.
Right.
Does Gannon have the same mindset, or does he need to see some of his guys play? I don't know, but it's how the backups play, not really as a group, but individually. Did they do their job well? And again, I'd like to see Blake Freeland really sort of step up, and we've not seen that so far.
Yep. Yeah, you like to either him or Gonzalez, like one of them, to be the guy. And I, personally, you would expect it to be Freeland after what he did last year and the experience that he had, and how he should be.
And can Bortolini be that guy inside?
You never know. Like I'll be interested to watch. After the strip and touchdown by Micah Abraham.
Good point.
Matt
Good
points
point.
at me. He's like, yeah,
that's exactly what I was thinking.
I really think that's a battle between him and Chris Lamons to see who's the backup to Kenny Moore. At
Lamons
slot.
has barely played on defense in his career.
Right. He's been a special
teams guy. They want, but the fact that they want to see what he's got on defense kind of tells you where the cornerback room is.
Sure. And Abraham was a guy who had, I think, 6 interceptions his senior year at Marshall.
Had 12
total.
For his total, yeah.
Yeah. So he was a guy who took the ball away. And we've talked about this. I brought it up in this offseason. The Colts defense needs guys who can take the ball away. It was sorely lacking last year with Shaq Leonard falling from his previous form. Like, this is a defense that, like, it looked okay at times, but if they couldn't take the ball away, then they ran into some trouble, and they ended up being ranked 28th in the league against.
That sounds about right. It was near the bottom.
Yeah. In points, I believe, points allowed. Yeah. So you need to be able to stop the other team. You need to be able to, if they're going, you need to be able to whip it around like that.
Offense is predicated on the chunk plays, and conversely, that's what the defense was.
Yep.
It's to make plays. You're just not defenses anymore cannot go 10, 12 plays, giving up.
Right.
A little. You got to make the big plays. Shaq did that. Well, last year they got 4 interceptions from Blackman. Did Kenny have 3 or 4 as well? But you need takeaways. You need to force things, and that was the exact kind of play when you're a guy on the margins to make the roster. That's exactly what you look for.
And in the first preseason game, I know it's preseason, and it's far from a certainty that these things translate over to the regular season, but against the Broncos in the first half, the Broncos offense had drives. When Kenny Moore didn't take the ball away, they had drives of 11, 10, 9, 7 plays. Like, they were out there for a long time. And I know you're going to try to rotate your defensive line for sure and try to keep them fresh, but it's hard to keep guys fresh for 10 plays when they're stuck out there. So I think that was one of the more disconcerting things I saw from that first preseason game. I know we haven't really broken down that preseason game too much here on the Colts Blue Zone podcast, but that it kind of just stuck out to me now as we're looking ahead and talking about this. That, like I said, it's not for sure that this is a major concern because it happened in a preseason game, for crying out loud. But at the same time, like, you've got to be able to stop these guys. Defense cannot keep giving up 10-play drives and 9-play drives or 11-play drives.
Yeah, it felt like there was a lot of that going on.
Yeah,
in that game.
It's not like you're facing the the 1987 49ers out there either. Like you're facing the Denver Broncos, for crying out loud. Their quarterback is Jarrett Stidham. They brought in Bo Nix.
Yeah, he lit him up.
He did.
Yep.
Bo Nix looked pretty good. Our own Chris Whitlick, who grew up a Broncos fan, who I was sitting next to up in the booth, was smiling a little bit at Bo Nix having the day that he had. But nevertheless, like if you're the Colts defense, you don't want to give up 11 play drives to Bo Nix, even in the preseason. It doesn't matter if you're trying to play vanilla defense or not. That should not be something that if it happens once, you're like, okay, whatever. But like I said, if it happens time and time again, it's like, man, something's up there.
3rd and 12, they convert.
Yep.
3rd and 7, they convert. Yeah, can't have that.
Can't do it. Won't do it, as Mike Singletary famously said. Was that about Vernon Davis, I think, at that time? I think back in the day. And then
Is that when he sent him to the locker room?
Yeah, I think so. And then Vernon went on to have a pretty good career, and Singletary actually was out sooner rather than later in San Francisco. But anyway, we digress, as we do.
As we often do.
Exactly. Colts Cardinals, Lucas Oil Stadium, 7 p.m. on Saturday. If you're watching in Central Indiana, tune in to CBS 4 at 6:30 for our Blue Zone pregame show. It is available out of market as well on NFL Plus. Guys, get excited if you're out there. If you're outside of Indiana, you can check it out. NFL Plus, this Colts preseason game. And like I said, Blue Zone coverage on CBS 4 at 6:30. Looking forward to see the backups play, see what they could do. And
are you really looking forward to see it?
No, I'm not. I was just trying to lead us to a strong finish, and you derailed the train. But maybe bet the over once again after a 34-30.
That's a tough one, because if you bet in the over in this game, you're expecting turnovers,
right?
A kickoff return. That's of course if you're betting preseason,
First of all,
they have meetings for you every week somewhere.
Yes, go and have the bad coffee and
if you want to bet on Jason Bean, go right ahead.
How about Anthony? I was going to say, how about Anthony Gould? You reminded me of the kickoff return. He had a 49-yarder for the Colts last week, and I think that was the 3rd longest of that they had in the league in that first week of kickoff.
I think they're like what I viewed as the reaction to the kickoff was kind of tepid, but if you're like, oh, whatever. But like, I didn't go in expecting that there were going to be 50 and 60-yard returns all the time. Like, I thought it was perfectly fine. I thought it did exactly what the NFL wanted. Like, it decreases injury risk because the players aren't moving as fast and crashing as much, and there's still the opportunity for something great to happen, like we saw with Anthony Gould, and like a couple other teams saw. Like, it's not going to make it that this kickoff return is now, I know they'd use the term dynamic, but it's not going to be that you're going to see 3 kickoff returns a game of 50 yards or more. Right. It's going to be probably about the same level of returns, but it's just going to be safer. And that's what people like about kickoffs, is that there's the chance for something great to happen. It doesn't need to happen all the time.
It cracked me up in the Hall of Fame game because for like the first 3 or 4 kicks, it was just like 25,
right,
25, 27. It's like, how's this any better? But it's still interesting, I think.
And if I don't know the rules all that well yet, but if you just boom it out of bounds or out of the end zone, the 30-yard line.
That's right.
Correct.
Which isn't that bad for
the 27 or the 30, or we'll see if because I think that's kind of what, like you said, it's kind of been the kickoff start line's been like the 26, 27.
Right.
So, but again, it's that chance. Again, if you've got a guy that's slippery and can and get through that first line, you got a chance of having the big return.
And it's going to be I think a situation with this, if indeed they stay at, like, it's the 30-yard line, if you kick it out of the end zone. If you got Devin Hester back there, you're going to kick it out of the end zone.
Right.
If you have Barry Bonds stepping up to the plate, you're going to walk him.
I don't care. There was a time they walked Barry Bonds once with the bases loaded.
Exactly, which is hilarious.
That it is.
But it was the right decision.
Yes, it was, because it's one is less than 4.
Exactly, and that's probably what was going to happen if you actually pitched to him. So it's going to be a time of trial and error to see which teams are better
and which team adjusts to it better, quicker. They'll have the advantage.
And the Colts have some guys back there, like with Anthony Gould, who what he did, we think he has some ability. Dallas Flowers
fearless.
Led the NFL in kickoff return yardage 2 years ago as a rookie. For guys who had at least 20 returns, he averaged 31 yards per return. Now, again, this is a different format, so you're gonna have to find some space in different ways. But yeah, you're right. I think the word fearless is definitely apt with him. And he has been playing like a guy who's going to be your starting cornerback right now. So it's going to be Juju and Jalen Jones right now. Those are your 1-2. So you're not worried about sending Dallas Flowers out there to return kicks. With also the same load that a starting corner would have.
And if Anthony Gould can emerge, then it alleviates that from Josh Downs.
Right, absolutely.
Because I think Downs to me is your best kick guy.
Yeah, I don't really want him.
But if he's your slot guy,
yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the deal, though. Like you can put him in from time to time, and I have no problem with that. Like
they used to do that with Ty later in his career.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to bring up. Like Ty from time to time went back and returned a punt. Like the Eagles famously had Deshaun Jackson or Brian Westbrook back occasionally to return punts, and burned the Giants more than once. The new miracle at the Meadowlands with those guys returning kicks. So the last play of the game to win a game. So if you have guys that are your dynamic offensive stars, like you might put them back if
time and place.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, just pick your spots, essentially.
Exactly. And so I would not be surprised if we see Josh Downs once or twice when the Colts really need something to happen.
And if they keep Gould back there for this preseason game when the starters are not out there, then theoretically you're not going against the strongest return guys coming at you, so maybe they got a chance to break one there.
That's true. And I think maybe if you say, hey, our starters aren't playing, you might still keep the, quote, number one unit out there for kick returns for the dynamic
return. Those are backup guys anyway.
Exactly. And you're still trying to get as many live reps with that as possible.
Nobody has a handle on this thing yet.
Exactly. So I think that would be one sense that you might still see the quote-unquote starters out there, or at least most of them. There's sometimes some of those players that are on kick return teams are like starters, or have significant roles on offense or defense. So you might not see like Mo Alley Cox out there if he would be out there in that scenario. I just picked that name. I don't know if he's part of the kick return team, but there occasionally are, or Kylan Granson, whatever. You see sometimes some starters play on those teams. You probably won't see them, but you still might see like 7 or 8 of the 11 out there of your main kick return team.
I'd like to see Matt Gay kick.
Yeah, I'd like to see him make a kick.
I know that was 54, but
I'd still like to see him make it.
That's what they pay you to do is to make them. That's why they brought him in here.
Made
make
him
long
the
kicks.
Second highest paid kicker.
And I was
in the
surprised
league,
the other day on
was.
Wednesday they kicked, and it was Spencer Schrader kicking.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get video for somebody else. Matt Gay needs to kick. He had an okay year, but he missed some kicks.
Yeah. Like he had great games. He won the game in Baltimore, obviously.
Yep.
So it's hard to look at his entire season. Like you can't say it's a failure. That's certainly not the case. And you can't even. I don't think you can say it's a disappointment because he won you that game and he won you some other games. But was it a little bit substandard?
For him, it was.
For him, it certainly was.
He was like a 92% kicker.
Yeah,
he didn't hit that elite accuracy threshold that we were expecting in what he has been paid
and
to
especially
do.
to come and play for Indianapolis, a team that plays in a dome all the time. You'd expect him to be at that level and not hitting 80% of his field goals.
He expects to be at that level.
He does, yes, and I think that's fair. And I'm not trying to pile on Matt Gay here, but I think that he would agree that he needs to be better than he was at times last year. So to be determined. We will see what happens when the Colts line up against the Arizona Cardinals Saturday night. As I said, broadcast on CBS 4. Tune in at 6:30 for our Blue Zone pregame show before kickoff at 7 p.m. And if you're out of market, watch it on NFL Plus. Looking forward to see what the Colts do over the rest of this preseason. The Bengals will wrap us up on the 22nd. And then, like we said, last cuts to get down. Well, last cuts from the preseason. There will be more cuts after that come on the following Tuesday, the 27th, as the Colts will resume practice, of course, in Cincinnati, preparing for the Bengals, and then back at team headquarters now that all things have been wrapped up out at Grand Park. So we appreciate you listening. Read all of Mike Chappell's work online, fox59.com, cbs4indy.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Colts Blue Zone. Mike is at mchappell51. Matt is at Statomatti. I'm at DaveG_sports. Download, subscribe. You can get the Colts Blue Zone podcast delivered to you as soon as it drops every week, and we will see you next week on the Colts Blue Zone podcast.